Good people YouTube, I'm the Watch Idiot, and Longines has just released a brand new titanium Longines Spirit Zulu Time, which is to be expected since they released a limited edition version with Hodinkee last December, which I've had since then. But this new one is a regular production model, which is exciting, and I gotta say, it's looking pretty solid, and it's got one super interesting detail that I wasn't expecting, but now that I've seen it, I absolutely love it. But it does have its fair share of issues though. So in this video, I'll get into the details of the new release as a previous owner of the steel black dial Spirit Zulu Time and the Hydro Conquest GMT, but I'll also get into what this new titanium version will be like in terms of its wearing experience based on owning the actual first titanium Spirit Zulu Time for the past 9.5 months that I'm absolutely in love with. And finally, we'll look at the two big potential problems here, the aesthetics and the price tag, both of which actually are just begging for Tudor comparisons. Oh, and also I mocked up what this watch would look like without the gilt dial, which I'm sure some, if not many of you are going to be curious about. So we'll look into that and let's just get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is a super interesting detail that I mentioned in the intro. At first, looking at the press photos, I was thinking, you know, nice, we've got ourselves a black and gray bezel, which is a color combo that I think needs to be used a lot more in GMTs. I mean, I like a Pepsi bezel every now and then for the right watch, but not every single GMT has to have some variation of Pepsi. But then I saw the live photos and turns out that it's actually two different finishes. The top half is polished ceramic and the bottom is matte ceramic, and I have never thought of this combo, but I think that it's an absolute stroke of genius because you're differentiating the two halves subtly, and in general, I'm a fan of varied finishes on watches, like the half brushed, half polished handsets that you find on the SPB Seikos. So yeah, bravo Longines. And going on, we've got a 39mm Flyer GMT with a rotatable bezel, which is checking off many boxes for many of us watch folks, and I can tell you from experience that the 13.4mm height that I measure mine at is not an issue at all, because on the wrist it really does wear more in the 12s-ish. Next up, the dial, and the dial is an interesting one because it's an anthracite dial, which is super dark gray against a matte black dial, though it's much lighter, and I guess you can say that it's just like the lightest possible black dial. And finally, the numerals are all gilt, aka gold colored, and the same goes for the hour and minute hands, more yellow gold than rose by the looks of it, and the GMT hand is a matte black hand with a red tip, which matches the red Zulu Time writing. And yeah, more about all this in the next section. Finally, the big news is that this is a grade 5 titanium watch, which means that it's going to be very, very lightweight. My Spirit Zulu Time weighs in at 96 grams, size for my 7.5-inch wrist, versus the new lighter, better wearing Seiko SPB 453, which I absolutely love and is super comfortable, and that one comes in at 157 grams. So yeah, you're getting a full titanium experience here, and it's at a level that even my other titanium watches don't really achieve. And from my experience, my titanium Spirit Zulu Time is probably the most comfortable watch that I've ever owned because of the case back and the bracelet are really, really good and smooth, but also because of how light the thing is. It's never a burden. It's just sitting there when you need it. And I put it on a sailcloth strap and it comes in at 65 grams total, and that's with a steel buckle and tang. So that's only 10 grams more than the $55,000 ultralight Omega Aquaterra that so many of the Olympians were wearing. It's just an incredible experience, and this new titanium version is going to be basically the exact same thing with a ceramic bezel, so maybe like a gram more, maybe even, I don't know, maybe a bit less. Either way, it's gonna be awesome. The bracelet tapers from 21mm down to 16mm, which makes for a fantastically refined looking bracelet, to the point that I don't even mind that it's got a 21mm lug width that much, just because I haven't really felt the need to swap the bracelet out for anything else because of how comfortable it is and how good it looks. And part of the reason why it looks so good is the refinement, and seriously, I cannot get over how well done the finishing is on the case and bracelet on the steel version, and to this day, I love seeing the way it glints in different lights. And obviously the same thing goes for the titanium, which actually is more special because we know that titanium is a much more difficult metal to work with. Oh, and finally, it's got a pretty nifty Oh, and finally, it's got a pretty nifty quick release bracelet so that you can swap in all those dozens and dozens of 21mm straps that every one of you have lying around, obviously. But the big omission is that it continues to not have a quick adjust clasp, and that's really disappointing, and that's one of the problems, obviously. So before I get into the problems, I want to say that I'm still excited about this new release. I'm a huge fan of all things titanium, so a regular production titanium version of one of my favorite watch lines is obviously going to be exciting, but as with anything, nothing's perfect. First, let's do the aesthetics, and most of the watch is spot on considering the ceramic bezel is the biggest difference compared to my watch. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of the half polished and half matte ceramic bezel, super cool. But then there's the issue of the gilt dial. I get that gilt dials are a part of Longines titanium watches, but it doesn't make me like it anymore. So although it works pretty decently well on the simpler time-only version, I don't think that it works as well here when there's just so much going on, because we've got a GMT hand, we've got a rotatable bezel with a ceramic insert and also numbers on it. The gilt hands and indices are then just more design elements fighting for attention. And I personally think that gilt accents are very vintagey, sort of, so that's why it kind of works on the Black Bays. But here, not as much, although a touch of warmth through a warmer lume color I think can work with titanium without it going full-blown vintage. So then that got me thinking, and I was really curious, so I went ahead and made a version without the gilt dial, and it is looking insanely good. And yeah, now it's much closer to the steel version, but I do think that with the dual finish insert, the red accents, and it literally being a different material, I think it's differentiated enough from the steel version. Oh, and while we're suggesting changes, might as well make the hands indices a sort of matte finish for more differentiation. I think that would really suit the titanium nature, and it would match the matte ceramic bottom half of the bezel insert. But yeah, my God, does this look so good. And in a weird way, I'm kind of glad that this isn't real, because then I would be sweating right now, and I would think I would have to sell some other watches to make room for this, just to be, at least to experience it, to see if this is something that I would want to keep alongside my Spirit Zulu Time, because of how much I love this watch. And now on to the other issue, which is the price. It's nearly $500 more than my limited edition $4,275 compared to $3,800. And the only big change between the two really is the ceramic insert and the 5 stars as well. I mean, who knows, maybe these things cost a huge amount of money, but they don't, let's be real. So yeah, I mean, I just think that it's weird to be charging so much more so soon after a nearly equivalent release. I mean, maybe they could charge an extra $100, $150 for ceramic, or maybe top it out at $3,975 if they want to keep the $75 in the price tag to, feel better. And I think that this is only really an issue because it's getting alarmingly close to the Black Bay 58 GMT at $4,600. And yes, I know that it is a steel watch with an aluminum bezel insert, but people are inevitably going to be comparing the two, since they're both 39mm flyer GMTs with rotatable bezels, and in this case they both have gilt dials. So being about $300 off, they're inviting folks to be kind of cross-shopping it against the Black Bay 58 GMT, despite the very real differences in material and aesthetics. Oh, and the Black Bay 58 GMT has the T-Fit clasp, which is a huge plus point and makes a very real difference in the wearing experience. And at this point, none of the Spirit Zulu Times have a quick adjust clasp, which still just boggles my mind, because they already designed a really good quick adjust clasp that's on the cheaper Hodinkee GMT. I mean, I just think that this is such a missed opportunity, because I mean, fine, they want to command a higher price point, so then roll out a brand new feature to command that higher price point, especially when it's going to be going right up against the Black Bay 58 GMT, and that's an awesome watch. And this all just came into focus because my Spirit Zulu Time was $800 less than the Black Bay 58 GMT, a huge amount for it being a grade 5 titanium watch, which to me is just loaded with value. That said, The value proposition for this new Spirit Zulu Time is still there, given the insane levels of refinement that Longines achieves with their finishing, and also the quick release bracelet mechanism is really cool. And of course, we're dealing with grade 5 titanium, which, so it's not as if you're getting nothing, but it's just really weird and off-putting seeing that huge bump in price when I paid $3,800 for mine without getting a quick adjust clasp as an upgrade. I don't know, food for thought, I guess. Yeah, just let me know what you guys think about this new release down in the comments, because I'm sure we have a lot of thoughts about this. Anyways, until the next video, good day.